Good evening. It's time for chapter 2. Our bedtime stories. Have we all got our favourite blanket? Make sure you're snuggled up warm. And get your favourite teddy. Are we all ready and sitting comfy? Chapter 2. Jenna couldn't see properly after the flash, but she could feel a strong wind and smell a lot of wet, sweaty people. And she could definitely hear what was said. The red-haired man called out, "Got the button, Captain? What shall I do with this stowaway?" She had the button. The voice that answered was strong, but not angry. "Yes, thank you, Smith. What do you mean, stowaway? I told you, any people present, we abandon our lost cargo." "Fine. Put her in my cabin for now." Jenna's eyes adjusted as she heard footsteps approaching. When it cleared, she saw a very handsome man, his black hair swept back tidily. His smile relaxed Jenna that she was safe with him. He spoke to her again, showing it was his voice that she had heard. When he spoke, his smile widened. "I'm terribly sorry, young lady. I'm afraid Smithy here has a lot to learn about manners. It's a bit of a mess out here at the moment. So if you'll wait in my cabin a moment, I shall come and introduce myself properly." He gestured to a door behind her. It was a beautifully painted door showing a storm over a lake. Jenna didn't quite know what to say, so she followed the man called Smith into the cabin. He pointed to a big red velvet chair by a big desk. "You sit there and wait. Don't touch anything. The captain likes things where he leaves them." With that, he walked out and slammed the door, muttering some very rude words. Jenna sat quietly, admiring the paintings and trying to make out what was being shouted at beyond the door. After what felt like an hour, the door opened and a very sweaty captain walked into the cabin. He busied himself for a few moments, removing his jacket, shoes, and wiping his face and neck on a large handkerchief. He went to a cupboard and pulled out 2 glass bottles containing what looked like orange juice. He crossed the room and held one out to Jenna. He took a big mouthful from his bottle before he sat down on a chair nearby and spoke. "Should anyone ask, you had water, not juice. The lads get a bit protective of their sweet things. Now the chap who so rudely brought you here is Smithy, our bosun. He's a good man, just a tad grumpy. I am Captain Rhys-Jones, and I am captain of this ship, the Catcher. Not an imaginative name, but she's mine. And you, young lady, who might you be?" Jenna looked at his soft brown eyes and decided he could be trusted, at least for now. My name's Jenna, Captain. I don't have a ship or a title, but I'm sure I can be of help until you take me home." The captain shook his head at her. "I'm afraid that won't be for some time, Jenna. We can only travel within the clouds, and Oswestry isn't due a storm for a very long time. As for help, I could always use a second opinion. We've been attacked a few times now. Each time they destroy our cargo. Barrels of lightning. Perhaps you can come up with a way to prevent our problem." Jenna thought hard. Lightning was always dangerous, and this man wanted to keep it. Unless they had a super battery, it couldn't be done safely. An idea occurred to her, like lightning had struck her brain itself. Well, what about rubber barrels? Grandad always says to wear rubber boots if it gets stormy. Or would they just break? "I'm sorry, I'm not very clever at this sort of thing." The captain thought long and hard. Jenna thought she had upset him, so tried to make herself as small as possible. Chapter 3. Bonus. After what felt like an eternity, the captain jumped from his seat and grabbed Jenna by her shoulders. "Please, come with me. You must meet Caleb. He is our ship's brainy man." With that, he took Jenna by the hand and stood her up and almost dragged her along behind him out of the cabin. As they walked, he barked off orders to the various men who were doing repairs on the ship. Whatever had happened, it had made a lot of mess and broken many things. When they reached the back of the ship, there was a hole in the floor with stairs leading down into the dark. The captain stood at the top of the stairs and called down, "Caleb, put on some light, man. We have company, and it brings new ideas." Almost instantly, the hole lit up, and a man could be seen at the bottom of the stairs, tightening a screw into something metal. He looked up the stairs and grimaced. When he spoke, it was a cold voice. "That's not company. That's a child. Children have childish ideas and make children's mistakes." The captain was quick to speak up for Jenna. "This child has found the solution you've been seeking for years in less than an hour." "Bring her down then. I doubt you're right, but I'll listen. Anything has to be worth a try." Captain Reese led Jenna down the stairs into a room filled with bottles, spinning gadgets and bubbling jars. In the middle of the room was a large set of 3 coils, which had lightning flashing and fizzing between them. Jenna was fascinated by it all. She was about to touch a swinging, shiny ball when the captain spoke to her and interrupted her thoughts. "Miss Jenna, this handsome hairball is Master Caleb. He may be shy of the razor, but his mind is as sharp as one. Master Caleb had the idea to line the barrels with copper wiring so the lightning would keep longer. Now please, enlighten my brain man with what you said in my cabin." Jenna felt put on the spot. Both men were looking at her from across the room. "Well, go on," urged the captain. "Tell Caleb what you just told me." Jenna paused a moment, then looked at the impatient man. I was just saying to your captain that my grandfather always says to wear rubber shoes during a storm. I wondered if maybe a rubber barrel might be the answer to your problem." Caleb stared hard at the young girl his captain had brought intruding into his lab. When he answered, his tongue was as sharp as a knife. "Oh yes, let's make the barrels lightning proof. They won't be able to store anything, but they'll be safe." Jenna went white. She had truly hit a nerve. "I have never heard anything so ridiculous in my days. Only a child could be so foolish as to think stopping the lightning was the answer to our problem. In case you hadn't noticed, child, we make our living by collecting and selling the lightning. Now, if you're quite finished, I've had enough interruptions for one day." Jenna had shrunk back and tried to make herself invisible. No one had ever been so hard on her about her ideas before. She jumped when a hand rested on her shoulder. The next voice she heard was the captain's. "Was there any need to be so vicious in your reply, Master Caleb? A simple 'no, it won't work' would have been more than enough. Come with me, Jenna. We'll leave the miserable goat to his ramblings. I'll see you in my cabin later, Master Caleb." He took Jenna by the hand and led her back to the stairs, where they went up to the deck. Caleb had resumed his tinkering and was muttering to himself. As their eyes adjusted to the daylight, Smithy came into view. He was pulling a large rope with 3 other crew members. As they pulled, the ship's main mast was lifted back into place. As they approached the men, there was a loud crack, and the mast fell once again, this time taking some raining with it. Smithy cursed and threw his rope hard at the deck. He looked up to see his captain and the young girl he had accidentally brought back with the button. He started speaking as they walked closer. "It's no good, Captain. She won't stay, no matter how many braces we put on. I'm afraid the Centurion may have won this battle. We can just about limp back to port if we're careful." The captain nodded his head and took a deep sigh. "All right. Thank you, Master Smith. I'll adjust our course and we can repair and restock at Zandiria. For now, let's just tidy up what we can, get some food in our bellies. I believe the eggs need using, as does the gammon. For heaven's sake, tell everyone to have a rest. No good running ourselves into the ground after the battle. I'll fetch the orange from my cabin for everyone. Thank you, Captain. I'll just secure the mast to the side, then we can stop. The captain patted his boatswain on the shoulder before leading Jenna back across the deck to his cabin. He buried himself retrieving the cases of juice and some salt. When he noticed the strange look Jenna had given him, he smiled a little. Sugar for energy, and salt for those that we lose in sweat. I don't know how true it is, but it's the way it's always been done. I'll just take these out onto deck and I'll be back with you. There's some sugar cane on the bureau if you want something sweet before our meal. He backed up against the door and eased it open, carrying 3 crates of glass bottles and a salt pot rested on top. And come back tomorrow for chapter 4 for the next bedtime stories.